All right, welcome to Cosmic Disclosure. I'm your host, David Wilcock, and I'm here with the Insider's Insider, Corey Good, who has claimed to be working with the Secret Space Program, which has a very interesting view about our future. They have technology that could eliminate the need for us to have a financial system, because if you need anything, you can just hit a button and you manifest it right out of these replicators. The interesting thing now is with this special edition episode, we've also brought in Michael Tellinger, who was specifically named by the Space Program Alliance because his Ubuntu contributionism system, they said, is a blueprint for an entirely new way of living on Earth that will be in much greater harmony, where the goods and services that we need can come about in a loving, co-creative fashion rather than in one that involves destructive competition. So Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David, for that wonderful introduction.
All right. Well, I want to play the lawyer for a second.
Please
I want to fan away these clouds of love that you all have been smoking.
Yes.
And I want to deal with some things that the haters are going to come at you with, because you're going to be on trial.
Oh, yeah. And
Okay.
David, I can say to you that I've heard this for 11 years now.
Well, I got to
welcome
give these guys their voice. 'cause
welcome to the trial.
They can't speak through the camera. I got to do their voice for you.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Every kid in America is indoctrinated with Jamestown. The first people that came to America had this idea where everybody's going to we're going to grow food and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And what you had happen was that all these wealthy landowners came over here and they refused to work the land and they starved to death because, well, somebody else is going to do the work. I don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
So this is the rationale that we've all been brainwashed with,
Yes.
indoctrinated with, but people believe it, that if you don't have a competitive capitalist system, that the need for money, the need to earn money and to procure money or else you will starve, is the only thing that lances the boil of human selfishness and greed that would otherwise make people want to live off of others and not contribute to the system.
Yeah.
How do you address that?
Well, once again, that statement comes from within a capitalist system. The moment you don't have money, where that doesn't even enter the equation, everything changes. When you start working in a structure of collaboration and cooperation, and not in competition,
Or entitlement.
Or entitlement, exactly. I'm entitled to people work for me and all that. This is thousands of years of indoctrination. This is why to deprogram the average person from the way that we think. We're all born into the capitalist system. We're all born into what we think democracy is the savior. And democracy is just a bullying tactic. It's not the saving grace. Democracy is part of the problem. We all believe, I live in a democratic country. No, it's part of the problem. It's part of the lie. Capitalism, democracy, competition, the money system, all that needs to go. Until we get rid of that, we can't level the playing field and create a united community that actually works towards the benefit of all. So to do this, it's taken quite a number of years, as I mentioned. I've now been doing this for 11 years. And it's been the most, for me personally, the most liberating journey of self-discovery, and then sharing this with others. That some resonate with it instantly, some take a little while longer, and some just constantly want to reject it, right? But once people just open themselves up and absorb some of the ideas, and it starts to resonate with them, there is no turning back. It's like opening that.
Michael, hang on a second. People are going to be sitting around with their phones. They're not even going to look you in the eye.
Yeah.
They're not going to want to do any work.
Yeah.
They're going to just be sitting there twiddling their thumbs. This doesn't sound practical.
There's going to have to be a transitional period and what's the opposite of indoctrinating a person?
Liberating a person.
Liberating
you can't
people's
make
minds.
somebody want to do this stuff, right? I mean, they're going to do what they do. And you look at the number of people that are buried in their phones. They can't even have a conversation, look you in the eye.
There's going to have to be a catalyzing event that has been talked about in the Secret Space Program. Something as like you talked about, a global economic collapse, people are going to be very upset. They're going to realize this has been a giant Ponzi scheme run by criminals. And all of these people that are supposedly in the democratic system that they voted for have been in the pockets of these people the whole time. It's just been a big scam. When the sleeping masses realize this, that's going to be a catalyst for them to want to know more. And then this is when a lot of document dumps are going to happen, a lot more information is going to come out. And don't you think that's going to stimulate people to be open to new ideas?
Yeah, and the Jamestown model, let's just address that for a second, Michael. They admittedly were coming into a foreign land that they knew nothing about with a very small number of people who were all essentially unskilled, who didn't want to get their hands dirty,
Exactly.
and who would have needed to do hard work in order to survive because there was no other way.
Yeah.
But we're not living in that society anymore.
No,
are
we're
we?
not.
Yeah. And in a slave labor mentality era
Exactly.
also.
Right.
When slaves were being sold on the open market. Exactly.
Right.
So we're living in very interesting times right now where pretty much everyone alive on this planet knows that something is wrong. You know, if you ask the average person out in the street, are you happy with the way the world is going? Are you happy with what the government is doing for us? Are you happy with your life? Do you think this is the perfect life that you were born for? Are you living out your dreams? The answer is 100% no. Guaranteed. 100%.
Absolutely.
People will tell you no. They're not happy with any of that stuff. So clearly something is dramatically wrong. So the platform for departure to finding a new system has already been laid. And now we got to just present a new system. And I think we've done that reasonably successfully. And this is why the Ubuntu movement is growing so quickly, way beyond my wildest expectations or imagination. I'd never wanted to start a movement or a global movement. That was not my plan. My plan was just to share some information, and this is what had happened.
I'm hearing a lot of beads and sandals, feel-good platitudes. I'm not hearing practical things, though.
Yeah.
I'm just hearing a lot of philosophy right now.
The practical things is what we need to get to really quickly,
so
because
let's do that.
that's important. That's exactly what people want to hear. Great, it's great, but how do we get there? How do we get from here to there? And this is why it's so important to share those practical steps with people so they internalize it, they feel confident. It's not just hey, shoo-wow kind of stuff, right? So we need to recognize that the communities out there already exist. We're not going to change the system in the big cities and the metropolitan areas. That's a difficult thing to do. I believe that the way to do this is to go into the small towns and small villages where you can reach all the people. You can share new ideas with them and basically just change the way that people think about their own future and how they can start working together and then become the model for this new way of thinking and the new way of acting and the new way of creating abundance for themselves, thriving. How do you do this? Well, you can do this by bringing a lot of money into a small town. The other important thing is to say, we're going to have to use money to free ourselves from the money. There's no other way around it. Okay, so people that are out there and saying, "Oh, Tillinger, you're a fraud. You want money to create this thing. Why don't you practice what you preach and do all this without money?" Stop being delusional. The system has been enslaving us for at least 6,000 years with money. We got to now take the system and change it so that it works for us. And I just need to come back to what Corey said earlier, because I'm probably going to forget. The whole philosophy of the Ubuntu movement and the contributionism philosophy is not to oppose anyone, not to fight anyone, not to create a bloody revolution or anything like that. Those days of violence and physical opposition are over. We're creating a new reality for ourselves. We're taking the existing system and the energies that are being used, the negative energies are being used against humanity, taking it and channeling it for our own benefit and just gently converting it so that it actually benefits humanity. And before we know it, it'll be serving us in ways that we can't even imagine. And I'm going to show you how. It's so simple and so quickly we can transition this. So we need to recognize that we can create as many community projects. And the whole Ubuntu contributionism system is based on establishing a number of diverse community projects within small communities that benefit that town. When I say community, it's either a town or a village or community of people.
Okay.
And each one of those community projects is then everybody works for a few hours a week in one of those community projects. Well, how do you do this? The thing is, and maybe you get a town that does this successfully and you start creating, all kinds of things, from growing food to technology to anything you can imagine. But as soon as you become a threat to the establishment, they'll send the men with guns and they'll shut you down. So that is not a solution. And the other important thing for us to realize that there are many self-sustaining communities around the world. Have they had an impact on the rest of the world? No. They're just running as self-sustaining communities. So a self-sustaining community is really just a bigger version of me, me, me. Now it's us, us, us. Right? So don't climb over our walls. Don't come in unless you're invited. And we're not going to share anything that we do with you because you're on the outside, we're on the inside. And that's not a solution. This is why I stress always, we are not creating self-sustaining communities. We're creating a whole new way of thinking. We create so much of what we do that we can make it available to everyone around us, either by selling it or making it available for free.
If the space program releases technology where you can create any material item or good or food that you want, you just hit the button and you got it.
Yeah.
How would that factor in? If these people already know they have this and they're using it, I mean, he said he loved the pot roast button when he was on the ship that he was on.
Okay.
How would that factor in? Let's say we have that technology, it's given to us, there's a big disclosure, we get that technology. How would this model work with that?
It's a really good question. It's something I've thought about quite extensively, and this is where our individual humanness actually comes in. While I might want to use the replicator to make me a pot of whatever, I actually enjoy the art of cooking. I enjoy making a wooden cabinet because I love the smell of wood, or I love fishing, or I love the things or the talents and the gifts that I'm born with to express those things. Otherwise, I might as well put a gun to my head because what am I going to do? I believe that we are living these lives on this planet to appreciate all the density, the oxygen, the water, the gravity, to experience this planet for what it is, with all the beautiful things imbued on this. That's what we should be doing. And we are each born with very specific and unique talents. And this is what we should be doing. So you can choose to use a replicator to make you a pair of pants, but I think you're going to get a lot more joy by talking to your mother or your granny or the tailor to make a beautiful new sets of clothes for you out of a material that you helped make yourself from hemp and other materials that are biodegradable, that are non-toxic, that are recyclable, that we have created with this density, this reality on this planet, because that's why we're here, to experience this as our reality. And then when we've had enough, then you decide what to do with yourself after that.
In this technology, he was talking about the larger metropolitan areas. A lot of this technology might help bridge the gap.
Yeah. So there are some very interesting things that can happen. And so I was leading up to the fact that the community projects is the model that we're using with the Ubuntu movement, and the critical thing with the Ubuntu party. It's become very obvious to me that unless you give this philosophy of unifying people and creating a new system of abundance, a new social structure, you have to support that on a political level. And because right now our lives are being controlled and destroyed by politics. And people say, oh, Tellinger, you're selling out, you're going into politics, you're becoming just like them. No, we're going into politics because we want to turn this disgusting, dishonorable, crooked, filthy part of our lives that's destroying our lives. We need to change it. By sitting on the sideline and ignoring politics is not going to do anything. It's not a solution. So what do? We have to do something about it. So we create a political party that actually says something completely different. We're going to decentralize government. We're going to shut down the Federal Reserve System and create a people's bank as an interim that issues money for the people, tax-free and interest-free. So there's no taxes, no inflation, none of that. So it actually starts serving the people to put into place in the interim phase all the community projects and the public works that we need so that you can release the people from their prisons in the metropolitan areas and they can go back to their little towns and villages because now they know they're going to find something to do because the money is provided for by the people's bank. That's just an interim phase.
Doesn't it seem like things are already kind of leading this way? Look at the number of people who will make their own YouTube videos. They know they're never going to make money on it. They'll write articles. They know they're never going to make money on it. They're writing software that's free. And why are they doing it? Because they want to be seen as socially valuable. They want to have a social status. So do you think that this social competition or social collaboration is going to be part of it?
Absolutely. It's really what you just said there, David, is critical. It's when you start working in your community, and again, we're still leading up to the practical steps, so I think it's critical that we get there. But when you wake up in the morning, and you know, as Corey said, everything you need is provided for. Why? Because that's what we do as a community. There's too much food, too much technology, too much fabric, too much anything. Everything is available in abundance. All you have to do is contribute a few hours a week towards the community projects, and the rest of the time is yours. How that will evolve, I don't know yet, but the communities will decide how that's going to evolve. But what it results in that most of the time you have in the week is your own, and you can then express your own talents, whether you're a painter or a sculptor or a musician or a horse breeder or an engineer or a scientist. It doesn't matter what you do. You've got the absolute ability to do
things that make you happy?
Things that make you happy.
Wow.
Exactly.
What a
so
world.
When you wake up in the morning with a smile on your face, because you know you don't have to get up, get dressed in a suit and a tie, and sit on a train or a bus or ride a bicycle in the rain or the cold or the wind, to go to a stinking job that you earn a few lousy dollars every month to pay off your mortgage, to pay the electricity, the milk, the bread, pay for your children's education so they can be enslaved in the same system, and then you start the thing over again next month.
And as Graham Hancock would say, keep your brain pickled with alcohol so that you can keep doing it.
Exactly. So now you don't have to do this. So you choose which community you live in. You don't have to, you're not forced to do anything you want. You get everything for free because you contribute a few hours a week towards one of the community projects. And that collectively makes us a very powerful labor force. I use that as a word, although that will fall off the edge very soon. But very, very quickly, overnight, your community becomes a powerful labor force that no corporation, no municipality, no government can compete with. And I've actually given you the steps. How we go from here, from today, into a community that is living in abundance and creating all this abundance for itself.
What if some guy goes around raping women at knife point? What are you going to do with him?
Well, that's one of the frequently asked questions. So thank you for bringing it up. And what I find interesting, just on that subject, is that the questions that people have been coming up with over the last 11 years shows me how equally wired we are, right? How the current system has wired us to think equally about the problems and coming up with the same problems, the same hurdles. It's beautiful. So now we know what problems to solve.
Right.
But the good thing about this is, remember, part of the whole model, the Ubuntu model, is to move away from a centralized government. Communities govern themselves. So I don't know what my community or the community that I'm going to be in. The community will decide. They'll set up a new legal system, guidelines as to the behavior, starting with the basic, the common law system. Do not kill, do not steal, and conduct yourself honorably.
So you're not talking about like a centralized government ideological system in that aspect, different regions that have their own moral compasses and
in many ways going back to like the city-states. Right? Where every community has its own set of rules and guidelines, and there's a lot to discuss, obviously. But in the Ubuntu model, we go back to the tribal council, where the people of the community elect, and it's an open election. Everyone knows that I voted for David Wilcock to be on the Council of Elders. Yep. And if David Wilcock...
Maybe our elders will become respected again.
Well, that's what it's supposed to be. This is why they sideline our elders and they put them in old age homes, and we try and get rid of our elders, because by the time...
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And you don't use the wisdom anymore. And so the community will elect its own council of elders that will then be the guides for the community. And they'll decide daily and hourly and minute by minute what is best for the community, not what's best for me. Although, what I do is I call this a minority-run system, not a majority-run system. And this freaks some people out. They go, what do you mean? Because we are so poisoned by democracy and majority rule, right? So this is a minority rule system. How can you say that? It's because there are far more minorities than there are majorities. Okay? There are an infinite number of minorities. There are those that look after butterflies, and those that care about peach trees and the soil and the clouds and whatever. People that make sure that the genetically modified stuff doesn't enter our food and all. There's so many different minorities. And in a contributionism system, every minority will be taken care of. Every minority will get all the tools, all the technology, all the support, all the labs, all the research, everything you need to do what you're supposed to be doing for your community. That's why you can call this a minority-driven system and not a majority-driven system, where 51 people tell the 49 people that they can't have it their way.
So the cesspool gets clogged up, right? The sewers are clogged. Nobody wants to go into the sewer. What do you do then?
Great. I love it. It's just beautiful. Well, it's just one of the frequently asked questions. It's beautiful. You know, who's going to shovel the crap? Right? And the answer to that is normally when I do the workshops and I bring up this as a question, guess what happens? There are always 2 or 3 people that put up their hands. I'll shovel the crap. So we already have our answer. But it goes a lot further than that. Remember, we're no longer doing this for money. We're doing this for our community, which means we're doing it for ourselves. I don't want to have my sewer clogged. So if the sewer is clogged in my community, it means that my sewer is clogged because it's my community.
Right.
Right. So whoever is on duty for that week to look after the sewers will go and unclog the sewers. So let's get back to what the community projects are all about.
And there's people that specialize in all these different types of things that can pool all their resources together.
Correct. So this is we also recognize the diversity in our humanness and our community, but the unity within the diversity, right? And the diversity within the unity. There are as many skills and talents and wishes and wants of people that people have as there are people. Each and every one is completely unique. Each and every one of us is completely unique. And each and
equally as important.
Exactly. Every one of those trillions of cells in your body plays a critical role in the makeup of your body. And that's what I keep reminding people. Don't think that because you think you're nobody and you're insignificant. And that's what people do. Oh, I'm nobody, I'm insignificant. No, you're not. In a Ubuntu or a contributionism system or contributionist community, you are a critical part of your community. Everyone plays an equally critical part in the community. Doesn't matter if you're the local doctor or the scientist or the engineer or baker, everyone's role is equally critically important, just like the trillions of cells in your body. So the amazing thing is that for every crazy Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci, there are 1,000 crazy young chemical engineers who are passionate about solving the sewage problem. And they will come up with systems to solve the sewage problem.
When I was in high school, there was probably about 20 jocks who were always on the morning announcements because they'd won this or they'd won that. They were the fastest runner. They shot the most number of baskets in the basketball team. And then there was maybe 10 or 15 eggheads who kept winning all these academic things.
Yeah.
That's the only folks you ever heard about.
Yeah.
Everybody else, hundreds and hundreds of kids, all marginalized, never got any recognition, never got their name on the announcements.
Yeah.
How do you avoid cliques and good old boy clubs where the same thing starts to happen and just a few names are getting all the attention? Okay,
we got to go back to most of the questions that people ask about how will this work. The questions actually come from a capitalist society, right? What you talk about is a consequence of capitalism. Laziness is not human nature. It's one of the frequently asked questions. Oh, human nature is to be lazy. No, wrong. Human nature is to create, is to give expression to your divine, that talent that you're born with. And that gets beaten out of us in the school system. So when you change the schooling system, which obviously we're going to have to do completely, we're not going to have a schooling system the way we have today. This is an indoctrination, brainwashing, manipulation, prison camps that we send our children to.
Yeah.
So that's
I couldn't have put it better myself.
that's going to change dramatically. So when you grow up in a united community where everything is available to everyone all the time, you're not worried about who. You love those people around you that are coming up with new technology and new science and new way of making bread and new way of mixing dough with that, a new way of making shoes or dyeing clothes, or a new materials graphene mixed with hemp. Oh my goodness, what a great new combination. It's like, so because you've taken the lid off, money is not a hurdle to progress. Anything and everything is possible. It's about what you do as an individual that drives you, that you'll be respected and loved for by your community. They love you, David, because of what you do and who you are. The moment you start driving your ego, guess what your community is going to do? They're going to say, oh, and you're going to know about it very quickly. Because it's all about whatever you do will benefit the whole community. And this is where it gets really interesting, when you start understanding the impact of who we become in our communities.
When I came over here from the airport, there was a lady driving the shuttle bus named Teresa for Alamo.
Yeah.
She's got 2 jobs. She works at Delta, she works at Alamo. She's working 16 hours a day.
Boy.
The only way she gets enough sleep is that she does the overnight shift, and she's sleeping from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's
she sleeps
disgusting.
6 hours at home. Okay? But when I talked to Teresa, it turns out that she went to Haiti. She had an incredible time there. The fruit was amazing. The climate was amazing. And if she could afford it, she wants to go back to Haiti and create something like a business for all-terrain vehicles where people can drive around, enjoy themselves, do something that contributes to the common good. And
Yes.
anytime you find somebody in one of these dead-end jobs, if you talk to them about their dream, they got a dream.
Yes.
Everybody has a dream.
Yes. It's fascinating. Everybody has a dream. But what I found as well is when you start talking to people in high-level businesses, guys that have made a lot of money in corporations and CEOs and all that, and ask them, so what was your childhood dream? And this is actually one of the saddest things that I've experienced, is many of the people have forgotten what their childhood dreams were. And they really have to think hard about this. This is what the system has done to us. That's how bad it is. It has beaten us down so deeply and so badly that many of us have forgotten what our childhood dreams are. So I've started a process of probing these individuals. Say, so where did you live? And you have to take them back on their own journey. It's like a bit of a therapy session, right? So you take them back. Where did you live? And where did you go to school? And what did your mom do? And your friends, did you ride a bicycle? And you take them back, regress them in a way. And then they start remembering what their childhood dreams were. And you suddenly see how their life, the whole body language and the energy changes from starting to talk to you very rigid and guarding themselves. You're talking about a world without money. You're trying to take everything away from me. No. I'm actually trying to give your life back to you. I'm trying to give you your childhood dreams back so you can live them out without the fear of somebody shutting your childhood dreams down and hijacking your whole life and doing something else.
I'm sorry. Is this something that people can begin to practically implement in whatever country they are right now on a small scale?
Yeah.
And is there a place where they can learn more about it and start communities and start to do these, not really focus groups, but these social experiments and show others?
Well, Corey, thanks for bringing that up, because it comes back to the implementation. How do we do this?
Proof of concept.
Proof of concept is critical, but this brings me back to what happens in community projects. First of all, to set up a community project costs money, right? So we need money to set up community projects. And trust me, I've tried with the limited amount of income that I make to set up these community projects in my town. And we've set them up. But then to manage them and let them control, and actually let them become successful so they bring an income, so that they start bringing abundance into the town, first with money, and then that money keeps upgrading and improving. That is where it normally falls down, because as an individual like myself, I end up running out of money every time we start, get out of the starting blocks. So this is why I need to bring it back to the political platform. And it became very clear to me, because in 2014, the Ubuntu party ran as a political party, and I ran for president in South Africa. We ended up with 1 million followers. That was a large number of followers.
That is a large number.
I know this because I have 800,000 names and cell phone numbers on my laptop of people that responded with SMS messages saying, we love Ubuntu, we support Ubuntu. So
Wow.
I'm not just making this number up. I can show this, right?
What's
Can
the
prove
total
this.
population of South Africa?
Well, it's about 55 million, about
Okay.
20 million voters. So we had about 1 million followers into the elections. But this is when we learned how crooked and predetermined the outcome is. But it was very important for us to go that route, to learn and become wise from that process, to see what the next step is going to be. And that's exactly what we found. And I found the following. We didn't even smell, the inside of Parliament, although we should have had at least 4 seats or 5 seats. And we ended up with about 5,300 votes. So you need 50,000 votes to get a seat in Parliament. But what then made me realize is that where the real power lies is at municipal level, at community level in the towns. And one mayor, one elected Ubuntu mayor, will be infinitely more effective and powerful than one elected member of Parliament. Because if I win and get elected as mayor, I can implement all these philosophies in my town virtually overnight. Why? Because I get money from government, and I could put the money that comes into the municipality. I can put that money into all these community projects. They will then spark the growth of the community projects, and it expands very, very quickly from there. So what
if you have this big factory that's dumping industrial emissions into your river, and they got lobbyists and lawyers and all this money behind them, and this community is getting some money, but they want to stop the pollution from flowing down their river? What are
Yes.
they going to do about that?
Okay, I'm going to come to that.
Okay.
I'm going to come to that, because you'll actually get the answer yourself once I've taken you through this little process.
Okay.
You'll be able to answer that yourself. So, so we basically now going, in 2016, we have the South African local municipal elections. And I'm using this as the catalyst, the spearhead for the global Ubuntu movement. Now we've got members in more than 200 countries. I didn't even know there were 200 countries. But when I read the list of where people have signed up from, I'm like, what? It's amazing. So we need to raise enough funds to contest successfully the local municipal election. Our aim is, our strategy is to go after the 12 smallest municipalities. It's the Achilles heel approach. Because if we win one municipality, and the 4 or 5 towns that make up that municipality, we will shut down the capitalist system and implement this Ubuntu system, contributionism system, virtually overnight. It will be the first domino to fall. Because once you start implementing this, it is impossible for a capitalist model to function anywhere within the proximity of this kind of model. And the whole philosophy is based on win one small town, and this is why I say, we can bring down the global money banking cabal with one small town. Doesn't matter what country it is. One little town can bring down the whole banking and money control system of humanity and free us all. That's how critical and simple it is. Win one small town, implement these philosophies, implement the community projects, and our main promise to the people for this election is free electricity for all. You all know, that free electricity is available. Alternative electricity devices and supplies are available. That's part of the control system of capitalism, has kept that away from us. We will implement a very simple electricity supply for our town, and that will be the foundation to unite the people. Everybody gets free electricity in return for giving 3 hours a week to one of the community projects. And this way, everybody has 3 hours a week. You don't have to give up your job. You can still carry on the system as it is today while we start creating this abundance. What we did in Australia just recently in Byron Bay, there was a statistician there, and he did a calculation. And this is what he said. A small town, because I use our town of 5,000 people as an example. 5,000 people, 3 hours a week, it's 15,000 hours of labor a week. Right? Need I say more? Right? That's just working collaborative. No more competition. Let's unite and collaborate and cooperate. 15,000 hours of labor a week. He did the numbers, and he said 1 year of people contributing 3 hours a week in this system, 1 year of this is equivalent to 31 years of people working 8 hours a day as slaves in the current system.
Wow.
1 year to 31 years. Those are the ratios. Right. So within a very short space of time, we'll turn our community into a community of unimaginable abundance. We'll have so much food. And then you decide how this unfolds. So we've got a plan of action that then creates a supply. So what we've done in essence, the moment you start creating all this food and whatever, furniture, clothes, bread, shoes, whatever, technology, computers, you open up your science laboratories to researchers and medical people to come and find the cure for all disease and share it with the world. So you invite the scientists to develop ways to get rid of the pollution in the river, right? So there's your answer for how you're going to deal with the pollution. You know that we can deal with the nuclear fallout within a week if you get the right minds in there, right?
In America, something like this happened after the Depression, where and again after World War II and during World War II, where these large social causes mobilized the public and they got involved in public works projects.
Yes.
And people were really inspired, and that was the last time that America really had a manufacturing boom.
Yeah.
And then when we expect everybody else to do all the work for us and we're going to import everything,
no.
it crumbles from the inside.
What it does to our town and our community instantly turns into an attraction for anyone who wants to create, invent, and use their skills to serve themselves and the rest of the people. So it'll invite everybody, and it also shows how this contributionism model is an inclusive model. It doesn't exclude anyone. All you have to do is make your business, your company, part of the community projects. What is the benefit to you? Free labor, free electricity, free components, because if we don't have the components, we set up the community project to make the components, right? So this is how it grows. So and you retain 1/3 of whatever we produce and sell, and the other 2/3 go to the community. So the answer to every time I approach an industrialist or a farmer, it works on all levels, with farmers, with industrialists, manufacturing, anything. 1/3 goes to the business and the other 2/3 go to the community. The answer is not let's negotiate. The answer is when can we start, really?
Well, I can tell you everything you've said pretty much interweaves with what the Alliance has been saying, what the Blue Avians said in their message, and what they've said is that this is the wave of the future, and this is something that I strongly feel from these sources pointing your movement out directly. I think this is something that we all need to look deeply into, educate ourselves about, and in whatever way we can contribute to. And I've really enjoyed hearing this deeper explanation. I've learned a lot more about the movement. I just heard little bits and pieces through my sources, and this is incredible. And I really do see it as no other alternative but the wave of the future.
Well, thanks, Corey. And I just want to come back what I said right up front. The transition from where we are now to living in this world of abundance is so simple. It is so much simpler than most of us could have ever imagined. But most of us keep tripping ourselves up because that's how we've been brought up. Things are difficult. You've got to work hard. No. Put that out of your mind. We're going to rid ourselves of the money. We're going to create a beautiful future of abundance for ourselves. Let's start visualizing it, and let's see this as a solution. It's so simple. I'm not in charge of it. Every community is in charge of their own lot, their own future, their own abundance.
Let's challenge the viewer out there to get involved somehow. How does the person watching this, if they're inspired by what you've said, how would they get involved, take this to the next level?
Thanks, David. Well, first of all, go onto the website, join us, Go to ubuntuparty.org.za and join us there where it says join us. And then read as much as you can. Get a copy of the Ubuntu book, because that's a means of funding for us. That'll help us.
Okay.
And then if you have a way of funding, if you're a closet multimillionaire and you want to help this because it resonates with you, we need your help. We're not going to do this without money. Because remember, the system has been set up so that money keeps destroying any opposition. And I feel it month in, month out. It's a constant struggle. So we need financial support. So if you can help us financially to get into this election and make it a success, that's what we need from you. You can do that on the website, and there's a donate button there.
Now, are those grants, or would the investor be able to get a return on the investment?
Unfortunately, this is not a return. The return will be in the result of the election, where they will know in their heart that they did something that benefits humanity into the future. There's very little I can offer them other than my gratitude.
But there are also tax write-offs. I mean, people would either give the money to the government in taxes, or they could do something like this as a nonprofit.
Yeah, and we do have a nonprofit company that will be receiving this money. We've just set it up. It's called Ubuntu Planet.
So there's people that have all this money that they would
Yeah.
need to give to the government unless they can put it in nonprofits.
Yeah.
So that'd be perfect.
And it's also an investment in the future and an investment in humanity and changing the world.
Absolutely.
And
So-
like I said, it's one small town. Just see this as your support of this spearhead that's going to pierce the veil of control of humanity for thousands of years. We're going to burst through that and
So
open it up.
You were saying Ubuntu Planet?
Ubuntu Planet is the new nonprofit company that we created for this. So Ubuntu Planet will be the vehicle that gets the funds, and from there we'll then distribute it to the Ubuntu Party, the political party, where it needs it. I know that in the USA, apparently nonprofit companies aren't allowed to fund political parties, but that doesn't apply in South Africa.
All right, so that's been some pretty mind-blowing information. I'm looking forward to hearing a lot more from Michael Tellinger coming up. I think this is very exciting. And as always, I thank you for watching Cosmic Disclosure. We're co-creating a new future together.